It's time for another video. Today we're going to discuss the Prada homes here in Utah. We just finished that up this summer, both the Northern Wasatch Prada homes and the Salt Lake County Prada homes. So we're going to talk about our thoughts on both of those, some of our favorite houses and favorite features we saw.
So this year we went to 2 parade of homes instead of 1. We normally just go to the Northern Wasatch. It's up by us. We've gone for years now. Even before we got into real estate, we would go with your family.
Yeah.
This year, our first year at Salt Lake.
Correct.
What are your initial thoughts on the differences between the two? Because they're obviously a different price bracket. Generally, Salt Lake is more expensive.
I'd say more expensive for the average home.
Average house, yeah.
Yeah. And so that's a big difference I felt, as like the Salt Lake, most obviously there was a couple crazy custom builds, but a lot of them were more community-based, neighborhood-based houses that were done by
a bigger builder. That kind of has more specific floor plans and things like that, whereas the majority of the northern ones are very custom homes. They're done by smaller builders that do less homes per year, and they work with the buyers from the ground up on building a specific house for them. Now they still have some that are just built and then sold, but I would say more in the northern are custom designs. Yeah, at least in the parade.
Yeah.
Maybe not all of the builders' homes.
No, just in the parade.
In
the parade from this year. So that's one of the biggest differences I felt.
Yeah.
So
I feel like the ones in the Northern Wasatch were less, like you said, in bigger neighborhoods that they were building a lot of houses. They were more one lot that they had their client pick where they wanted their home, and then they built that home for a specific person.
Yeah. Some cool things in the Salt Lake one that we didn't really see in the northern one was that they did some renovations of older houses and on property lots where they either used part or all of the previous home, which was built 30, 40, 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And they renovated it really nice and custom, tried to keep some of the original character, but bring it up to date and modernize it. And some of them had some additions to make it bigger.
Yeah.
So that was really cool in the Salt Lake one. We didn't really see that in the northern one.
No.
So
I think we're going to start seeing more of that in Utah. We're just running out of land. There's not a ton of land left around where people work.
Exactly.
And unless we expand, I think you're going to start to see a lot more of the redoing of older homes or tearing down of homes on lots and rebuilding, because we don't have a lot of space to just build a ton of new stuff still.
So true. I mean, the other big thing in the difference was almost every single one of the northern properties had a pool.
Yes.
Bigger,
which is so funny because Utah has our winter.
Yeah.
And you can't. Well,
you got bigger lots and bigger space up here, so it kind of makes sense. But there was still some pools at the Salt Lake ones, but I would say the percentage was much lower than the northern houses.
I think we saw more pickleball courts there than pools.
Yes.
Which was different.
Yes.
Pickleball's getting pretty big in Utah.
It is. It's the new thing.
But I don't think it's come up north quite as much yet as it has in like Utah County and Salt Lake County. It's slowly moving its way up here, but we didn't see that as much up here.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, those were some of the big differences I felt between the two. I mean, they're both great in their own way, but they showcase a different side of new construction or custom home building and what's available out there. So, let's get into some of our favorite houses. Do you want to start with Salt Lake or Northern?
Salt Lake.
Okay, so
I feel like we have a very similar design style.
For the most part.
For the most part, we gravitate towards the same kind of houses. So I feel like we kind of talked about it, and we ended up with the same favorites in both of them.
Yeah.
So the first one of our favorites in Salt Lake, we almost missed because I am terrible at directions.
She's getting better, but she blew us right past it.
Past it, and you were like, didn't we have more homes to see today? And
was gonna skip it. It's fine. Yeah. We circled back to it. Ended up being one of our favorites. We would have been sad if we would have missed it.
Yeah.
They had a lot of cool features in there that we liked. That one was more of a custom feel to it than some of the other ones, which we liked.
Had more custom feel. It was built by Elevation.
Yeah.
Had a nice brick exterior. Very, how do you describe the style? It was combined with some white siding.
Yeah.
Correct? If I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah.
But it just looked really clean on the outside. Really, really clean, good lines. It was spacious inside. It was large.
It had like a reddish brick, which I feel like was a very big early 2000s thing.
Yeah, definitely in the past it was much bigger.
And it wasn't my favorite.
Well, it was combined with a lot of browns.
Yeah.
In the past, and so the colors didn't go great together, and they haven't aged well. But when you use the redder brick or the darker brick with a brighter color to get the contrast,
brighter, neutral,
or a black or something like that, it looks really good.
Yeah, the color scheme they chose was really good.
So that was definitely one of our favorites.
Yeah.
The other one that I just feel like you have to talk about is there's a massive home in Harriman. It was over 25,000 square feet.
Yeah.
And it's just incredibly large. It's 5-6 times bigger than most of the other homes.
Yeah.
And so...
We've never walked through a house that big before.
No, I don't think so. So it was massive.
Yeah.
It was obviously cool.
Yeah. It was nice.
And it was very nice. It had its own master wing.
Yeah.
For, it had kind of like a big shower area, large bedroom that was kind of all like separate down its own wing of the house.
Yeah, which was cool and different.
So it was separate and that was nice. The thing I was surprised about is it did not feel that big inside. It was big, but when I would have compared it to like an 8,000 square foot home and then go to 25,000, it did not seem 3 times bigger.
I expected it to feel like it had so much more in it than the other homes, and I think it just had bigger spaces.
Yeah, everything was bigger. The family room's much bigger. The kitchen just much bigger.
Yeah, like the theater they had was much bigger.
Yeah, it's like, a good... I probably do 20 people in the theater or something like that. I don't know. I'm throwing numbers out there.
Large spaces.
Yeah, so all the rooms very large. All the bedrooms very large.
Yeah.
All the bathrooms very large. And almost a bathroom on every room, so that adds a lot of space.
Yeah.
So that was just interesting walking through it. They had a lot of cool characteristics. The location was very nice. Had beautiful views. The other thing I was surprised about is that I expected that if you're building a house that big, I expect everything to be custom, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure everything was, but going through it, it felt very familiar with some of the other houses.
Yeah.
And it wasn't as over the top like elegance and...
Which is obviously not their style.
Exactly.
But yes, I expected it to feel like a step above everything else.
Yeah.
Interior-wise.
Yeah. So that
it was very nice. But
it was very nice, but it was surprising that it wasn't over the top.
Yeah, not quite what we were expecting.
It had a great casita pool house. Those are some of my favorite finishes.
Yeah.
Were in there.
They had a really cool wall with like a gem.
Yeah, so some sort of stone, bluish.
It was really cool. That was one of our favorite things.
Color.
Yeah.
So that was a real part of the casita that was awesome. Obviously it had sports courts in the back, pools, hot tubs, all that great stuff. And, garages, extra garages. So it was massive. It was cool. It was just a different feel and experience than what I was anticipating before I walked through the door.
Yeah, that's how I felt.
So
I didn't know what to expect, but it definitely wasn't quite what I expected, even though I wasn't sure what that was.
Yeah.
It was still cool.
Yep. It was cool to go through. So
when you hear everyone talk about how amazing it was, I don't know that I was as blown away as I thought I was going to be.
No, I thought I was going to be floored.
Yeah.
And it just, it's massive, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But the other features didn't blow me away.
Yeah.
So
I felt like I could get them in another house.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what about the Northern? I think we had very clear favorites up there.
I gotta save my very favorite for last.
Okay.
So, Far Built always does an amazing job.
Mm-hmm.
Their personal home was in the parade this year, and it was super cool too. But the home they built on the lake, it was kind of a private lake out in the middle.
Called Bear Hollow, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Out in the middle of the country. You didn't expect it at all when we were driving there.
North of Brigham and Tremonton. Correct?
Yeah. That man-made lake views.
Yeah. The outdoor
Beach.
spaces they did that had the volleyball pit and you had your custom pool and then the beach that ran right into the lake and the dock and stuff like that. It was just a very cool setting.
Yeah.
And you had the mountains in the background, the lake up front, and the private lake that's very community based. It's not ultra big, but it's big enough for your boats and your wave runners and stuff like that. And then
very unique setting.
Yeah, I thought the layout was just very practical and good too. And it had a small little beach house with it.
Light and bright, coastal feeling.
Yeah, so
you felt like you weren't quite in Utah anymore. You were beach vacation.
If it was our house, we'd darken up some of the tones, obviously, but it was definitely the layout, the functionality, the location made it one of our favorites. Yeah. So I would say the main thing we would finish it or change is some of the finishes just to fit our style a little bit more. Yeah. So, all right, what about your absolute favorite then?
I would move in today if I could afford it, and it was for sale. It was built by Hart Homes up in North Ogden.
And this was their first time in the parade.
Yeah. Much smaller builder. He does less homes a year because he likes to keep the quality up, and you could definitely tell that in the finishes.
Yeah.
It was so much black, and I'm in love with it. We already made a reel about it because I loved it so much. I think I have the most pictures from that house than any of them. Just very much our personal style. A lot of black accents.
Black exterior, black and gray exterior. A lot of black accents inside, but what I loved about it, I love the black obviously, but I loved just the strong contrast.
Yeah. It had a lot of light stone.
Light wood, light stone. Yeah. Stuff like that against the really dark black. And so it just makes things pop to me. Yeah. And then, adding a little bit of the brushed metal into it, it just looks really good. And so style-wise, that one definitely fit us.
Yeah. There wasn't really anything I would change to move into that house. I just loved it the way it was.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Had a really cool pool in the back. They did a really cool thing too with their extra garage.
Yes.
It was kind of like an indoor-outdoor living space, which we hadn't really seen that before.
Yeah, but it had doors that went out to the driveway and then doors that went out to the pool space.
Yeah.
And it could be used for covered picnic area, basketball court, all that type of stuff. And then also it was heated and cooled. It was attached to the house, which you don't see a lot of extra shop areas that are attached with that. And so it was kind of cool to see that. Very functional feeling, but the lot wasn't actually that big.
No.
So everything they fit on the lot and the way they did it,
they maximized the space.
It was very efficient.
Yeah.
So
it was really cool.
It was by far our favorite so far. So there will definitely be more content of that homecoming. So I assume we'll reference it a lot. But outside of the homes, and this is what I think our overall consensus was, is that Hart home we loved everything about, but a lot of the other homes were we have our style, are kind of picky. We like certain features, and there was a lot of cool features, and there was a lot of features we started seeing more regularly throughout the whole parade. So what are some of those ones that stood out to you or that you recognize coming up quite often?
I feel like that's one of the hard things about going to see so many houses in our job and the parade of homes is you have a very clear idea of what you like now, and I have a very clear understanding that I have expensive taste, unfortunately, which is hard.
Don't we all?
Right?
I think all of us do. If we were to build our custom dream house from ground up, we'd look at the price after and be like, yeah, I gotta take over half of that off.
But I feel like one we've seen in the past a lot in the Northern Wasatch, and you continue to see, is obviously those home theaters.
Yeah.
You see a lot of them. But we did see sunken in, like, underground home theaters, which was very different this year in the Salt Lake. We saw a few of them.
I think that was the biggest change. Usually they're just kind of flat, and then they do risers, you know, to have this stadium-like seating. But a lot of them were where the theater was, whether it was within the family space of the basement or off in a corner or in a separate room of the basement. A lot of them were dug down deeper into the ground. So when you walked in, you were actually like above the seating area, and you walked down into the seating area. To me, that made it feel much more like a real theater.
Right, like this custom.
Even if it was only like a 2-row
Yeah, a lot of
setup,
them were only 2-row setups,
you know,
but it just elevated it.
It felt so much more theater-like and enclosed, which was very cool. So I like that.
But a lot of them still had like the bar across the back, so you can like eat from the kitchenette, watch your shows, but then you're above the people. You're not like interrupting people. Their heads aren't in your way as you're trying to watch. So it was kind of a really cool feature that we saw this year that we haven't really seen before.
Yep. I think ADUs and casitas or pool houses, there was a lot more of those becoming a lot more common. In Utah, there's a big push on ADUs right now just to provide more housing opportunities, you know, so and if you have
the lack of land too.
Lack of land, you know, an extra income stream, or if you have a kid that doesn't have their own house yet or is in and out of college or whatever, then they can rent out the
extra space from yours.
You know, so it keeps it separate and whatever. So, or a parent coming back, you know, as they age, so that they can be close to, but they can still have their own kind of separate space. Yeah. So I thought that was a big trend that we saw a lot more of, and it's going to continue to develop that way, I think.
Yeah. I think in the past too, we've seen a lot of the like kids play, like built-in playroom type of things. But this year, our kids' favorite thing, there was like built-in bunk rooms.
Yeah.
And they thought that was so cool to have like a built-in bunk sleepover room.
Yeah. And that's been there in the past, but it was a higher percentage of the houses had
a lot more houses had them this year.
Yeah. So becoming much more popular. So
I think it maximizes your space too. I guess if you're doing like a short-term rental, obviously more beds in there, but family comes and visits, things like that. And they weren't just like twin-sized ones either. Some of them are queen-size, some were full on the bottom, and then twins on the top. So it really maximized the space and allowed you to have a lot of beds in a room.
Yeah.
And some of the rooms I was surprised by what they could fit because they didn't feel that big, but they had the bunks in there to maximize
4 beds,
the space.
Yeah, fantastic. So some of I thought the dark tones were really increased this year compared to previous years. There's still a lot of houses that have a lot of the light tones and light features and characteristics, but there was more that went the dark route.
Yeah.
And that's definitely our style, so we noticed that a lot.
Which is what we like.
So rooftop decks, there's a couple of those.
Yeah, we were surprised. We've never seen that before here in a parade home, at least.
It's just not common because of our snowfall, but the houses that had it kind of had a system to kind of deal with the snow, and you know, so we'll see how that works and if those features continue to catch on more, because it does give you an extra entertainment space, or just
but you don't necessarily have to add square footage to have that. It's already within what your house is, so it's kind of a cool extra feature. We didn't see them much up in Northern Wasatch, but we did see a few golf simulators, golf simulator rooms. Not just like small ones, they were their own rooms.
Yeah, full rooms, golf simulators.
Which we haven't seen before, and kind of is that like elevated. You only see them in really expensive houses.
Yeah, that's not something you're going to find even in probably your $1 million house nowadays. So it's just, but it's obviously a cool feature. I don't know how much those things cost, but if you're an avid golfer, it's probably more price effective to put one of those in your house than to go golfing every single day to get practice. You know, you practice in your house all week and then you go out to the course on the weekend or something like that. So I'm I'm not sure. I'd have to look into that. But yes, we saw a lot more of those. We
mentioned the pickleball courts. Yeah. We saw a lot of those in the Salt Lake one.
So the other big thing was saunas and cold plunges and combos of having both of them. Obviously, saunas and steam rooms have been around longer, but now in combination with the cold plunges, that's definitely becoming more popular. People are doing it more and things like that. So a lot more houses put those in, whether they were outside by the pool or like downstairs where you would exit towards the pool, or wherever, gym rooms, stuff like that. I feel
like this is the first year though that we've ever seen like a cold plunge though.
It is.
We've seen the steam rooms or the saunas, but I don't know that we've seen a cold plunge before this year.
Yes, had large iron doors. Right, a lot of big
huge front doors, like the heavy iron doors with the glass.
And I would even go further to say even a lot of the interior doors were much larger. They were 9-10 foot doors inside in some of the houses, which hasn't been very common.
No, but I think it's probably not a cheap thing.
No, it's a luxury for sure.
But it just like feels elevated. We talked kind of about Heart Homes. We've seen some of the shops have like dual shop living area, lofts in them, or like multi-purpose things.
Yep.
I think if you have that much money, a shop's probably not a big deal, but multi-purpose spaces that you can use for more than one thing.
Yeah.
We saw become more common this year.
Yeah, you get the shop use or the extra garage space, but then adding lofts or extra space on the back for some living area or an office that's outside of your house. That was, especially up north where shops are very common, that was a big standout this year.
Yeah.
So
we saw a lot of brick inside and like stone wall features or around the stoves, things like that, fireplaces. We saw a lot more of that in the interior, which you really like.
Yeah, I like the stone and the brick inside. I think it just adds a different element. So
different kind of you see a lot of the traditional like wall features where they've got the like designs on the walls, but that just adds a different element to it, something a little bit different.
Yeah, and then just in the past, kitchenettes and wet bars downstairs, they were kind of luxuries. Now they're in every house.
Yeah, I don't know that we went to any.
There was probably one or two.
Yeah, we didn't make it to all of them.
Yeah, we didn't go to all of them. So I'm sure there was a couple that didn't have it, but almost every single house now, even in your more
a lot
mid-grade houses or your middle-income houses, just have options for those kitchenettes or wet bars. They're not as grand, obviously, but they're just...
Some of them this year were almost full kitchens in there. I was
talking about the more base homes, but yeah, some of them have full kitchens downstairs and just are very luxurious. But I think just having that kitchenette, even if it's a small one, just adds to your usability of your second floor, downstairs. So, or your third floor, whatever it may be. So
I think the last thing that really stood out to us, and we only saw it in one house, it was a very unique design up by Pineview Lake, and they had an interior garden.
Yeah.
Floating stairs, but you could see they'd like done drainage and everything for you to have like an inside garden. Yeah. It was kind of a cool feature design wise, but also like functionality, especially in Utah in the winter. You can't grow things outside.
I don't know that it would be for me, but it was definitely cool to see. So
I kill plants, so it's not for me, but it was really cool looking.
There's actually a couple other things. The split fridges and freezers.
Oh yeah. They have the big like commercial sized fridges and freezers.
Yeah.
Normally they're just stainless steel right next to each other.
They sit together.
This year we saw a lot of them separated by either a counter or...
Some of them had the sinks in the middle or just other prep
like a
spaces.
Fridge and a space and then a freezer kind of broke it up, made them stand out a little bit less. And I think it flowed well, and I actually really liked it a lot better than...
It looked much better from a symmetrical standpoint. And it just wasn't these big gaping doors in the middle of your kitchen. So that was there. A lot more modern interior design and architecture architecture exterior. So that was a big one that's kind of picked up pace.
Yeah.
Because in the past it was like one house or two houses kind of had that style, and now it was probably like a third of them almost, maybe not quite a third, but it was a lot more. And then the other cool thing,
more in the Salt Lake, modern.
Yeah, and then some of the lots are shrinking, obviously, in Utah because we're running out of land, and so some of the exteriors were very unassuming. They didn't look large.
Like they could fit.
Yeah, like they
size.
looked like maybe a 2,000, 2,500 square foot house, and then you got into it and it was a 6,000 square foot house, and it was massive. And so it was very interesting going in and walking in and not knowing what you're expecting going into it, and then you get into it and it's much bigger and grander than what the exterior looks like. So
well, the one in the Salt Lake, they had a very, very skinny lot. So I ended up with a 1-car garage, and it looked really tiny from the outside.
Yeah.
But walking in, it was over 4,000 square feet.
I think it was
3 levels. The garage was actually really deceiving because it went the entire length of the house.
Yeah.
So you could almost fit 3 cars tandem in there.
Yeah.
What we thought was a 1-car garage.
Yeah.
So they're starting to come up with really innovative designs.
Creative ideas. So
larger homes in smaller footprints, which is cool to see.
Yeah. So, but yeah, overall, I thought there was a lot to see, and it's always good to see the trends and which way things are going. To you guys, if anybody's getting ready to build a house, whether it's a custom house or just a larger builder grade house for new construction, reach out to us. We do new construction quite a bit. It's something we enjoy doing.
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, Emily is really great at it. So you would talk to her a lot during the process. But, if you have questions about some of the custom home builders, or even just some of the builders that aren't custom home builders, and kind of what their process is, how it's been with us working with them, or if you want to start setting up some like meetings with custom home builders, we can get you in touch with them. We can help with that and get the ball rolling there, because I think a lot of people just don't know where to start when it comes to custom home building.
Yeah.
And it's obviously a bit longer of a process when it's a very custom home and it's from the ground up, than if you were to go build at a bigger builder and they have specific floor plans and stuff like that, and you basically just get to pick the finishes for the most part and your floor plan. But definitely reach out to us on the new construction stuff. So a lot of people go into new construction blind and on their own, and sometimes it just doesn't pan out well because you get blindsided by stuff that you're just not expecting. Sometimes the builders just don't explain some of the process very well, the timelines, the fees involved.
It can get confusing. It's a lot to know, and a lot.
And every builder is different, and so that's the hard thing.
So and different things.
Yeah. So we definitely suggest having somebody support you through that process. So, if there's a Parade of Homes in your area, or if you're in Utah and you went to the Parade of Homes, make sure in the comments, let us know what your favorite was, or what you saw from it, or what you think about the Parade of Homes, or how it impacts, maybe your future build or anything like that. So that would be fun to hear.
What trends you noticed, if you liked them, if you disliked them, kind of what's going on in your area. Would love to hear it.
But watch for. There will be a lot of Parade of Homes content for the coming months. So watch for more, and be sure to leave us a like and a follow and a subscribe. All that jazz. It helps out a ton. So it's so corny saying it, but we hope you're here for the next one, and we appreciate it.
See you next time.